Yo, I'm Brendan. The average American can't retire. We just don't have nearly enough saved to be able to stop working and live the life that we all dreamed. The promise of work hard in school, get a good job, be a loyal employee, and retire with dignity is not a promise at all. It's a fairy tale. Today, let's talk about why it's massively difficult for the average American to retire, how much people actually have saved for retirement, and if there's any hope to turn things around so we can reel in that dream that we all desire. Our potential to save and invest always starts with income. If we're barely surviving, then we don't have extra to invest, and the reality is that over time, real wage growth has been basically non-existent. What that means for us in reality is that people today just make less money than people did on average 30 or 40 years ago. If you're like me and it feels wrong to hear that Uncle Steve only made $36,000 in 1989 and he was scraping by, and somehow that math seems to make you feel kind of queasy inside, well, you're right, because adjusted for inflation, that pay is worth over $95,000 in 2024 dollars. So the next time you're at a family event with Uncle Steve, maybe it's worth pointing out that he didn't exactly struggle as much as he might want you to believe. So in terms of real dollars, our income hasn't grown over time, but in the meantime, the costs of living have skyrocketed. In current dollar costs, the average cost of a home in 1972 was $189,000. 50 years later, the average cost of a home in current dollars is $440,000. And because of that, almost half of renters think they will never be able to own a home. It's just too expensive. For decades, people thought that higher education was our way out of financial trouble. And in 1971, the average cost for a 4-year college degree was about $10,000. And that's adjusted for today's dollars. In comparison, 50 years later, that price has more than doubled. Almost $25,000 for a public 4-year degree in 2021. Medical expenses have seen a similar rise. The cost of a new car, even a vacation, has more than doubled in price. So our wages haven't increased that much, our costs have skyrocketed, and that leaves the average person with very little money to invest. But that's not all. We wouldn't even know what to do with the extra money if we had it. The reality is that people who make a ton of money are still only living paycheck to paycheck. Over a third of people making over $200,000 per year still say they're living paycheck to paycheck. And almost half of people who make over $100,000 per year still say that they basically live paycheck to paycheck. So regardless of making 3 or 4 times the average American income, most people would still blow their extra money on burritos and race cars if they had the chance. And let's be real, we would all love to blow extra money on burritos and race cars. I've done something similar in the past. I made a video a while back about how the money I made from my first real job basically all got blown on cars, food, new clothes. And if I'd invested that money instead of spending it all in my early 20s, by the time I hit 60 years old, like traditional retirement age, I'd have had an extra $500,000. So how much money does the average American have saved when it comes to retirement planning and doing all of these things? How well or how poorly are we doing? This exact subject is where I think a lot of people are being led astray by information they're finding online. You see articles like this from ally.com, you see them on CNBC and tons of other places that say, how much should I have saved by a certain age? And they give you a cute chart like this that says by 30, you should save 1 times your income, by 50, 5 times, by normal retirement age, you should have 7 times your income, and somehow by your 80th birthday, you should have 11 times your income. I feel like there's not a lot of people who are still saving really hard by their 80th birthday, but okay, Ally, you've given them some information. It's a cute chart. Let's see how much the average person has saved and compare that to something like this, which is commonly available wisdom, stuff we should trust, right? Maybe not. This Federal Reserve data shows us exactly how much people have saved, and the average person under 35, so kind of a millennial-ish age person like me, has about $30,000 saved. We get into our 40s, we've added $100,000 to that, which is nice, but by the time we hit our 50s, we're at $250,000, and at typical retirement age, the average person has around $400,000 saved, which is a lot of money, but it's actually not enough to cover your expenses, because when the average U.S. annual salary is $59,384 as of Q4 of 2023, even if we wanted to match this little chart from Ally that I'm convinced is completely wrong, we would need a bit more than the average person has. We would need $415,000. But let me show you why that conventional wisdom that you find on online articles all over the internet is actually wrong. One of the best ways we have to figure out how much money you need in retirement is something that's called the 4% rule. And what this is getting at is saying if you have enough money invested that you can take out 4% per year and live on that, then your money shouldn't run out. You should be able to live kind of indefinitely because that money is invested in the stock market, it's growing, and you're just taking out little bites every year to live on. There's a lot of online chatter whether or not 4% is the exact right number to withdraw every year and live off that. So we'll do a range of figures to keep everybody happy. I think something between 3.5% and 4.5% should be a safe withdrawal rate for most of us. And so if we do a little bit of math based on that average income that we had just a minute ago, $59,000 and change, then that means the actual number that people need to have saved is between $1.3 and $1.7 million. That little ally chart of 7 times your income isn't even close. Based on my calculations, it's pretty safe to say that the average person needs $1 million more than they have and more than these online little articles recommend that we have. This is a dire situation. So now I've remade that cute little chart so we can compare what Ally and CNBC and all these other online outlets claim that we need in terms of retirement savings by age versus what the 4% rule actually says we need in terms of retirement savings by age. There's a lot of factors involved in this, but based on somebody who's getting kind of an average stock market return of 8% per year and investing an average of about $600 per month over the course of their entire working lifetime, this is the numbers we end up with. At 30 years old, you probably should have something like $60,000 saved and invested. At 40 years old, you probably need close to $250,000, $250,000, something like that. At 50 years old, you've got to be well over that $500,000 mark, because then by your 60th birthday, you could actually retire with about $1.5 million in today's dollars. And then those numbers go up a little bit slower afterwards, because I'm assuming that in retirement, in your early 60s, you're withdrawing money here, and so your investments won't be growing at nearly the rate that they were before. But if inflation continues like it has in the last few years, then even all these numbers are woefully inadequate compared to the real dollar figures we need. So we've got to get serious here. We all need to turn things around, but how is that realistically possible? How do we fix our litany of problems? Not enough income, reckless spending, lack of financial knowledge, and realistically, no help from any outside sources. There's no one coming to save us. In my opinion, that leaves it up to us to save ourselves. We're not going to rely on a job or a government to come and do that, and I have a 3-part plan to set this up. Part 1 is figuring out how to understand money and investing in a way that benefits us. Part 2 is using our spending to accomplish our goals, and Part 3 is increasing our income. Our only hope to get better at money is to know more about it, to understand it, and to be able to play in that arena with more skill. When we don't know any better, we're more susceptible to make mistakes, to fall victim to scams, to not know how powerful investing is, and so we've got to turn that around by learning the difference. It's actually super easy to do this nowadays because you've got videos like this, you've got books that you can read, you've got blogs, you've got podcasts, you can take my course, you have all these sources of information, and so we can go from financially illiterate to pretty darn financially literate in the course of weeks, maybe a month. And one of the biggest things that's helped me with this is sharing what I'm learning with other people near me, because it challenges me. It makes me have to regurgitate the information in a way that they actually understand too. And then whenever you're talking to that person, they ask you a question and you realize you're totally stumped. You don't know the answer. You had a service level understanding. So whenever you are challenged to have to share it with somebody, it makes you a better understander. Is that a real word? It makes you have to better understand that subject, and that helps both of you. I put some links below the like button for some resources that I personally have used and really enjoyed. So check those out after this video's over. You might have the same kind of hesitancy that I do whenever I'm even thinking about this. Whenever I'm making this video for you, I think, wouldn't it be better if we just all made more money? Wouldn't that actually solve the problem? Because we would have the opportunity to make the choice then. When we're not making enough money, we don't even have the option to really invest or get ahead. And so at least if you had a higher income, you'd have the possibility to invest and save and get out of debt and do all the things we need to do to build wealth. But here's the problem with making more money without learning enough financial literacy first, is you're probably going to fall to the trap that almost everyone falls to, which is lifestyle inflation. We slowly buy a nicer fridge. We slowly buy some toys here and there. We slowly get a little bit nicer clothes. And before we know it, any more income that we had is absorbed into our lifestyle and it becomes our norm. We just adjust to it. It's like what Uncle Ben says, with great paychecks come great responsibility. So after we've learned the basics of how money works, how investing works, how we need to set ourselves up to have a structure to win before we make more income, then we've got to talk about spending. If I'm honest, I don't have the perfect plan to curb your spending or control it or otherwise track it, because I hate tracking it just as much as you do. But my guess is that if we experiment with different methods of tracking our spending and trying to stay to a budget and stay to a plan, then we can keep tweaking it over time and eventually find what works for us. Try out a new app. Try the envelope method. Try using a spreadsheet like the one that I use. But controlling our spending now with what we have is pivotal before we move into the world of higher income, because it sets us up for massive success. Like right now, I quit my job 2 months ago to do videos with you full time. I'm only making like 20% of the money that I made at my old job. And so I'm in like ultimate miser mode. I don't spend money on anything unless it's a gift for somebody coming up or an absolute necessity for life. And this has been such a fruitful exercise for me because I thought, wow, if my income ever gets back to anywhere close to where it was, I will have so much space to invest. I'll have so much excess in terms of money that we can either do really fun stuff with it, we can invest like crazy people, we can pay off whatever debt we might have at that time. It will be incredible. So if you've been like me and you've gotten a little bit too comfortable with your lifestyle and too comfortable with your level of spending, maybe try just brute forcing your way into being disciplined by sheer fear of failure. You will not retire before you're 65 if you're not investing at least 15% of your income right now. You will not get out of debt anytime soon unless you're making extra payments to get it paid off. You will have stress and heartache and fights with your spouse if you don't have an emergency fund saved up of 3 to 6 months of living expenses. All that's a reality. Let's use our fear to motivate us to do something about this. If you're ready right now and you want to get started investing, then I have 3 recommendations for you. Number 1, if you want the easiest possible platform to get investing, that's Acorns. And I'm actually an affiliate of theirs, so I want to disclose that right away. But I have a special deal worked out with them where if you invest through my link, you get $20 for signing up and making your first deposit versus if you just sign up from their website without using my link, you only get $5. So that's pretty cool. Plus I get a little bit of kickback. So that helps me out and I really appreciate that. Another option for you to get started investing is to use Fennel, which is probably the newest, highest potential investing service that I've seen. They really seem to care about the integrity of their business and protecting their users' interests. And so I'm really excited to see what Fennel does in the future. So just to check them out and see what that offering is, I've got a link in the description for you. And then also option number 3, if you want the most powerful and advanced trading tools I've ever seen in my life, check out Interactive Brokers. That's also linked below the like button. And then we get to step 3, which is income. There's a chance that if we focus a bunch on financial literacy and we focus a bunch on curbing our spending and controlling it and having a plan for it, that we might already have made some progress in our life to have some margin and have money to save and invest. And that's huge. But if we don't, or if we want to have more to invest, then now's the time to look for a strategy to make more money specifically for that purpose. There are a ton of videos and information out there about passive income and side hustles and things that seem easy and can actually pay you a good amount of money. But I think there's a pretty massive issue with passive income, and I made a video all about that right here. So watch that next to see what the issue is when it comes to these passive income promises. Or if you want to get straight to the strategy of making more money at your full-time job, then watch this video next because I go over my best tips that I've used over time to increase my value at my job, which increases my paycheck at my job that I just quit. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. The secret comment word for today is donut, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.